So Kathi, why don't we move on to some of the case studies that we have? We've already talked about some of these, but let's do that. So we don't actually have a named case study for original credit because we have, we support over 1,800 institutions across the country, and that ranges from the Department of Defense, their education group, state education agencies, obviously local education agencies, and individual schools. But what we are seeing is that it's all the things on the previous slide. It's equity of access. It's wanting to re-engage students that have opted out of the system. They may still be in school, but they've opted out of the system. And they're looking for a viable and engaging solution that can get kids to graduation and beyond. And one of the interesting trends that we are seeing in the marketplace is that, that for the past, call it 5 years or 10 years, use of online learning has primarily been in a supplemental fashion. It's been for the student that wants to take the French 4 or the AP Calculus, and they don't have access to it, or there's not a teacher resource in their district. More and more now we're seeing school districts that are opting to launch virtual middle schools and virtual high schools, in some cases instead of breaking ground on a new building, and in other cases in concert with that.
In some cases just to hold their own students before they lose them to another virtual school that might, be, for example, be a charter. So
Correct.
People are trying to meet the needs of their kids before they lose them.
Correct. So, we have hundreds and hundreds of partners, school districts, states that we work with that are offering virtual learning as original credit in both supplemental and in full-time fashion. The full-time, as a percentage of our total enrollment, students that are enrolled full-time is increasing semester to semester, almost doubling semester to semester. So we're seeing more and more school districts launching full-time virtual initiatives.
And that kind of is a nice segue to our second case study, where there's original credit being offered as the core program, all online, in East Valley, Washington, and the teachers who are doing face-to-face learning opportunities with their students are working sort of project-based. So things that might take a teacher getting in and rolling up their sleeves and with the students and designing something, creating, building, they're actually doing that face-to-face, but students then go online to get their primary subject content.
This district in particular wanted to target their alternative education students, a vast number of which had opted out of the system. And so they launched a virtual high school that is now serving 300 students, and they're looking to expand for the fall. They're actually starting to support neighboring school districts with services as well. So it's been a real success story for them. As we go through these case studies, we're getting some interesting questions, one of which is, are these courses accepted for graduation? The short answer is yes. Students earn a score on our courses, which then the local system translates into a grade, which becomes a credit-bearing event for that student. So yes, they are accepted for graduation. We got a specific question, Kathi, that I think is worth spending a minute on, and that's, how are we helping ELL students? So you want to take a minute and talk about some of our strategies around that?
Many of our ELL students have English language skills, but not at the level they need to compete, for example, in the current grade in which they might sit. So we have taken our curriculum and lowered the grading level 1 or 2 grades. We offer not only a slightly lower reading level, but we also offer translation for those key vocabularies. So each unit is begun with a pre-teaching. It's translated, and right now we translate into Spanish. So the student can see the definition in English, they can see it in Spanish, and they can also listen to it. So not only can they listen to the definition, but they can actually listen to everything that appears on the screen in a written format. So for a student who's an off-level reader or learning English as an English language learner, this gives them the kind of support they need to be able to tackle content. And again, stay up with their peers in terms of not falling behind on credits and being able to aim toward graduation together.
We've gotten some additional questions around blended learning, and so I think if we stay on this slide for one more minute and you look at that middle section, right, the online learning core services, I mean, this is really a partnership between us and East Valley, and we are the kind of intel inside that's powering the academic program for East Valley, but they have local control over areas that they are better served to support, like managing students, in cooperation with us, managing students' IEPs. Teachers from the local school district are actually delivering project-based face-to-face learning opportunities to supplement what they're doing online. So this really is a true shining example of a blended learning solution.
And the district gets to select those core offerings. They decide what the students are going to be taking in the online learning system, and then craft those project-based opportunities around them.
And that's one of the real successes that I think we've seen with our offering, is that it enables a system, the state, the district, the school, to deliver virtual learning in the way that makes sense for them. Right? We're not trying to. We don't have a
Exactly.
we don't have a cookie cutter solution that says here's how you do it.
There really is not. It's very
we build
much
around how you want to do it. Yeah.
I know we're kind of running out of time, and I want to be sure we cover the last two case studies. The first one, credit recovery. It's a partnership with the Chicago Public Schools, where we're the only credit recovery provider. And you see some statistics there about the kinds of challenges faced in Chicago. We just recently had a celebration with the district where 1,000 of their at-risk students graduated after taking credit recovery classes, and none of these students were on the way to graduation. We found over 90% of students with Chicago complete their credit recovery classes at an average grade of about a C. And the big difference in Chicago, the reason that we were able to get so many kids over the bar, is that Chicago has partnered with us to create a mentorship. Someone who owns the student, supervises the work, is in touch with the student locally, and provides that kind of support. And as we worked together over the last several years, and we took over more of that training so that all mentors met the same quality and the same level of training, the completion rates skyrocketed.
You know, and again, I think the common theme is that it's very much a partnership. We have tools that can allow you to do things, and they can allow you to do them in a manner that makes sense to what you're trying to achieve locally.
Well, we do have 15,000 school systems in this country, and everybody does it just a little bit different. One of our interesting other case studies, as we mentioned earlier, was the Cook County Jail adjudicated use. And this, if you don't know much about Chicago's jail, it is the largest jail in the United States on a single site. Pretty tough place to be. And we have partnered with the jail itself to create a system of wraparound supports, drug and alcohol treatment, life skills training, so forth, and a high school education. The young men that we met there that were working in this program were actually there for the short term. They're not serving a long sentence. But while they're there for 6, 8, 9, 10 weeks, the jail folks wanted them to be sure that they were staying on track. And as you see at the bottom, in the first year we had 60 students drop in and out during that year and pick up an additional 88 credits. We even had a student who completed geometry in 2 weeks. There are clearly a lot of very bright young men, at least in this situation, who had not completed high school for a variety of reasons, and when given the opportunity, could leap across that bar. Greg, any additional thoughts on that? Because I know you've visited, and it's quite an inspirational program to see.
Yeah, it really is. And the one comment that sticks with me is we were touring one of the classrooms, and the students are all in front of the computer. They're very engaged. They actually have notebooks where they're taking notes as well, which surprised me to see that. But we went up to one student and we asked him what he likes best about the courses that he was taking. And the thing that he said was that he loved that everything, his curriculum, was always in one place. It was like a digital backpack, right? He didn't have to remember to bring a book back and forth. So it's just interesting to see how different students, assign different, values and premiums to what online can offer them.
One of my sons is very disorganized, and I can't tell you how many times the homework went in the backpack and it got buried at the bottom and never came out for the teacher. And I'm sure the teacher thought he was lazy and not doing the work. It just got lost in the mess at the bottom of his backpack. So that little story means a lot to me, as well as I'm sure to that young man.